those people into rural Alabama, it's got to be open season.
May I have a word?
There's no word to be had.
The people. The people. The people. The people. The people.
2 hats today?
Yes, sir. It's good when you can do that, though.
Yeah, exactly, you know. First of all, man, congratulations. I feel like I should have came in here just with a round of applause.
Thank you.
For such a great job on screen, so congratulations.
Thank you for that, man. I'm like more than honored to be a part of this. This is like one of my most fulfilling moments in my life as an artist, actor, and human being. Because, you know, Dr. King and the struggle is something that I'm very much connected to. And to be like, I feel like when we do art like this, it's an extension of what they did. We're keeping that dream going. Like,
you know, there's a line in the movie. She said something along the lines of, you know, our ancestors came across the Atlantic Ocean on slave ships, and
yeah.
you know, they were able to defy the odds and survive that, and that same blood is within us. So
yes.
A part of that is in you, and I feel like that comes across through your music. So how do you feel inspired or encouraged when it comes to thinking back on, you know, who you're representing?
Well, I mean, you know, I come from the south side of Chicago. It's a rich history in black culture, you know, and it was discovered by a black man, Chicago, the city. So as the more I learn my history, the more I have like love for myself, love for my community, and I love others. It's not like, you know, you can't just love, you can love your people and your community and love others too. So getting to know like different figures, whether it's Nat Turner, whether it's Malcolm X, whether it's Dr. King, or Harriet Tubman, it just gives me more information on who I am and allows me to know that we can accomplish anything and to know the lineage that I come from. My father used to always say that to me, your bloodline is strong, so, you know, I'm part of the bloodline, and to be able to know that gives me fuel for when things are difficult.
Right.
So yeah, I'm just grateful to be a black man in America today.
Absolutely. You know, you mentioned 2 things. One, you mentioned your father. I want to come back to that and talk to you about the importance that he had in your life. But you also mentioned history. And history has a way of repeating itself. And the timing of this movie, I feel like, is very important. You know, it took place 50 years ago, but sadly, I saw some similarities in some of the things that were taking place 50 years ago that we still see happening today.
Yes.
So what are your thoughts about just the timing of the film and the release?
We've come a long way, but we got a long way to go as far as, you know, the change in this country and some of the racial prejudices that exist, some of the abuse of power. We obviously feel like when you look at some of the scenes in Selma, it's not a far picture from what you see in Ferguson, Missouri. And just, you know, that's one specific, you can go directly to that and say, you know that like a young man being killed at the hands of an officer or someone in authority, like the state troopers that shot Jimmy Lee Jackson, or, you know, the police officer that shot Michael Brown. It's not that big of a difference in situation. This is 50 years later, and we're still fighting for justice. And the people of Ferguson are doing it in a nonviolent way, which is very important. And very important that we figure out what we need. Like, and I think Selma is so relevant because it's art, it's a film, but it also can affect change. Like it can open the eyes of some teenager that's like, man, they did all that, and I can be a part of something this strong and have a value to my life that really means something beyond just my Instagram or beyond just, you know, my Twitter followers. Yeah. You know, it's like,
you know, it's interesting because as a result of the Michael Brown shooting, there was a huge backlash within, or, you know, the African American community rose up and was furious. But it seems when it comes to the music and the accountability that we have when it comes to our lyrics, there's not that same sense of, you know, responsibility or accountability when it comes to what we listen to. So being a music artist, like, what are your thoughts on, I don't want to cause any beef, but you got songs like the Shmurda dance and Shmoney dance and stuff like that. What are your thoughts about that being glorified, but we kind of turn a blind eye on what it's actually saying?
Well, music it's different forms of expression. Everybody has their interpretation of what music is fresh to them. They have their taste on what they're going to listen to. I think hip-hop specifically, and just music in general, is like, it allows the artist to express themselves. If somebody wants to do, the Shmurda, then that's what they do. Like, I can't, it's hard for me to tell somebody, yo, you should rap like this, or you should create a song like this. I think the important thing is to acknowledge that it's not only that music, it's also other music that offers other things. Like, we got a song at the end of Selma called Glory.
Great song.
And thank you. And it's myself and John Legend. It's about really like this film, and also what took place in Selma, but how it's really going on now. And it's about the fight and winning the fight. Like, and the fight is not like a race thing. The fight is like about like overcoming injustice. The fight is about like letting love prevail, fighting for peace. So music does exist like that. I think other artists have a lot to say, like when you go to a Kendrick Lamar. So that's why I don't focus on just one aspect, because people can only be who they are. I can't ask Young Thug to rap about if that's not what he wants to do and that's who he is. So I just let each artist express who they are and just present the whole spectrum.
You've always been a positive, light within the hip hop community. You've always, spoke on things that might give somebody a different perspective on how they should kind of just look at life.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on just how hip hop is kind of the direction in which it's moving in, and do you feel like you have any power to kind of help to skew the direction of it back to something more positive?
Well, hip hop is moving in. Like, it evolves, it constantly grows, and it's going to change. It's moving where the youth are moving. To be honest, the youth like lead the hip hop in many ways, but then again, you still have artists like myself who've been around in hip hop for a long time, putting out fresh music, new sounds, and so what I believe I provide is a different aspect. I did an album called Nobody's Smiling, and I connected with like artists like Little Herb from Chicago and an artist named Dreezy. And, I brought some of the younger artists who have their perspective, and I offered a different perspective, but it's still like, I don't overlook the fact that I was them at one point, like, meaning I come from the same place they come from, and I'm not the person or the artist that's gonna sit there and really judge what they do.
Right.
I just like write from a perspective of always giving like a voice for the people is what I do, and I always write from a perspective that at some point it's going to be some hope at the end. It's going to be hope. I never just want to tell the problem and not offer any solutions.
Okay.
Whether the hope is just, whether the word is just motivation, inspire yourself, it's going to be that. So, I mean, I think that I don't have a problem with hip hop being where it is, because that's, it's always a voice for what's going on, what young people feel. So, and it's dope that you can get artists like me and Nas and Jay-Z that still bring something to the youth, and they feel connected. So I don't have a problem with hip hop.
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier, your father, and then you just mentioned yourself, Nas, and Jay-Z, who are in a sense kind of like the fathers of the current state of hip hop, or the current hip hop as we know it today. So in what ways do you feel like you're able to impart some fatherly characteristics upon the youth in the way that, your father may have imparted stuff on you?
Well, the one thing that my father did that I really love was my father always let me know his flaws. He never acted as the perfect human being. And I think, it's important for me is if I'm going to like get the younger generation to understand, and then I got to also present the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a perfect human being, but I also have to present like what I know to do, to be integrity in music, to be creative, to have music that has substance. I gotta present the truth. And with that, it just has to be, to me with hip hop, man, if you stay in tune with the people, if you really connected with the people, you really gonna be able to align yourself with what's going on in hip hop. And if I do that, I can always offer them some type of leadership. And part of the leadership is listening. Like, it's not always like, I got the answers.
Right.
You know, some of it is just like, what's up? Yeah, let me hear that. All right, cool. Just showing you care, because I don't have all the answers. And but I will offer everything that I do have, and some of that is just guidance. Some of that is just embracing. Like, I felt the difference this album when I embraced the younger artists. The younger fans just was like, oh man, Common embracing us, you know, and it's Absolutely. Just, they actually appreciated my music more.
You know, what's one change that you would like to see done somewhere in the world? It doesn't have to be within hip hop, just one change that Common would like to see take place.
Well, I would like to see spirituality valued more. Like, I would like to see schools not be afraid to say, oh, talk about God. I would like to see, like, the creator be put more into the families and communities in whatever way we can get, you know, spirituality there, because I'm a believer that, you know, if you believe in a higher power and you work to act towards that, it will direct your life in the right direction. You know, you will have some morals and values to live by, and have a compass, as they say, you know, and a conscience about what you're doing. Because if you really believe in that higher power, you'll know that, like, that higher power is in each and every individual. So I think spirituality and the education of spirituality is, like, everything. Like, my daughter's been going, like, her school she goes to, they meditate, and it's a school based, it's an all-girls school based on Christianity, but they don't, like, knock other spiritual practices. They, like, say mantras that, like, remind me of Buddhist thoughts. And I feel like, you know, instead of just focusing on religions, I would say, focus on spirituality. I think that would help out towards the violence that I've seen going on in Chicago, towards the structure of families that's been damaged, you know.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the structure of family? Because, I mean, you have had a father, but, you know, a lot of times nowadays the majority of young African-American men don't.
Yeah.
So in what ways do you feel like that has hurt our community, or in what ways would you like to see that change?
Yeah, well, I would encourage each and every individual that may not be, if you're not with, you know, as a man, if you're not with the mother of your child, then you still are present in that child's life, and know that just your presence means something. And, you know, just, I think having a father figure in the home is very important. And if possible, you know, that would always help the family, you know, and just communication within a family is super important. But just seeing men, like, that really took care of themselves and were men, that taught me more how to be a man. So it's very important. And if, as you said, there's a lot of kids out there that don't have men in their lives, and some of them don't even have a solid mother in their lives, right. You know, due to drugs and you know, being, like, in poor situations, and mother always working. So that's when you hope that other family members and community can step in and provide the children with great examples. Because my uncle was one of the first persons that showed me as a man just how to do certain things.
Right.
So, you know, the community does have to step in at times.
Yeah.
And I think we gotta look at each child and say, man, that I have a connection to this child, so I gotta offer he or she something inspirational and give them some foundation.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned spirituality earlier, and you also mentioned community. And this film, I feel like, has an underlying sense of spirituality all throughout it. There's several Bible verses that are mentioned, and Dr. King in the film, played by David Oyelowo, was, you know, he prayed numerous amounts of times. So in what way do you feel like that spirituality then kind of helped to keep them nonviolent? Because there's a lot of times I'm sure they wanted to rise up.
Oh man, you know they wanted to rise up, and they just made the rise up be more of a nonviolent rise. They knew that the rise up was going to have to be for them to truly rise up, that they couldn't like, it couldn't be a violent thing. It couldn't be like a physical rise. Spirituality was the rise, and it provided a comfort. It provided a place to go when you're in the most painful times. It provided them some type of healing, some type of understanding that they could lean on something that was beyond just their physical bodies, and it does it for me now. It does it for a lot of people now, but it really was significant for the people during the time of the civil rights. That's why they were singing church hymns, and a lot of the meetings took places in church. The church was an important part because God was an important part of the movement, and they always relied on God, you know, and always knew God is on our side. They knew that they would prevail somehow, some way. Some soldiers may be lost in the war, but they knew that they would win the war with God on their side. And that happened back in the days of slavery. You know, people would sing those songs, sing spirituals, because that's what got them through the day.
You know, again, you mentioned what got them through during their eras, you know, 50 years ago. And you also mentioned that spirituality and God has kind of been taken out of schools and just young people's, you know, lives in general. So there's a climate in this country it's heated right now. You know, there's something that's brewing within the fabric of this country. So with spirituality not being there, do you feel like there's still a way for us to peacefully resolve this, or do you feel like there's going to be some sort of violent, you know,
I mean, I think it's definitely ways to peacefully resolve it. Communication and acknowledgement, like some of the best times I felt myself grow as an individual was when I acknowledged that I was fearful, that I was jealous, that I was whatever the situation. Man, people in the country got to acknowledge this racial prejudices that exist. Fortunately for us, the youth don't have that as much. They growing up in a different way. Hip hop is even help to unite a lot of nationalities, but then again, it's just the times is different. But some of the people that have been in power and have come from those eras, it's hard to unlearn some of those things. So, and when those things are not put out on the table, and you may be acting a way towards somebody because, and you don't know, it's in your subconscious, you acting that way because they're a certain color, then you gotta figure out what's the problem and figure out why is that, and maybe do your best to resolve it. And I think that's where we can help beyond spirituality is the communication and acknowledgement and just really putting everything out on the table.
Well, you put everything out on the table in this role. Your character, James Bevel, he was said to be, a father of the civil rights era, and I feel like you embodied that character amazingly, so congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
Everybody, make sure you go check out this film, SELMA, in theaters, December 25th. You're going to love it. Common, great job. We look forward for more from you. And again, thank you.
Appreciate it. That's good job, man. Good job.